So the Miami Herald had a really interesting report that dropped a couple days ago that I have to share with you guys. Apparently Trump has been flying around on one of Jeffrey Epstein's planes. And I'm not saying this as in like, oh, in 1996 he was doing it. No, he was doing it this week. He's been flying around in Epstein's plane this week to like campaign events and things of that nature. Well, the golf course usually, because that's where he spends most of his time. So here's what they say. Why Trump flew to campaign events on Jeffrey Epstein's plane last weekend. This is the plane, by the way, and they put a Trump 2024 thing on it. I think it's on the other side, which is why you can't see it. Okay. Former President Donald Trump's campaign flew in a blue Gulfstream jet formerly owned by sex trafficker Jeffrey Epstein, using it to travel to several campaign fundraisers over the weekend, the Miami Herald has confirmed. Trump en route on his own private plane to a campaign event in Bozeman, Montana last week, unexpectedly landed in Billings because of mechanical problems, a campaign spokeswoman said. He and part of his staff then flew on a small charter to Bozeman for a rally Friday night. The next day, he switched to another larger Gulfstream with a serial number that matches a plane once owned by Epstein, his former neighbor in Palm Beach, the campaign confirmed. Now, by the way, let me just pause here to bring up an interesting theory, which I think has some merit to it. How much, I'm not exactly sure. Some of the speculation was the reason he didn't go straight to the airport that he was originally going to go to for this rally is not because, hey, I had a problem with the plane. That was the cover story. The real issue is that he still owes this airport money that he hasn't paid. By the way, as many people have noted, Trump has not been having many rallies recently. Now, one theory is he's just scared to do the rallies because he almost got fucking assassinated at one of the rallies. But another theory is, I don't know if you noticed this, but a lot of the rallies they did up until the assassination, they were doing them in outdoor venues, right? Why? Those are, a security nightmare, but they were doing it there. Why? Because a lot of the arenas and the stadiums where he was doing rallies in the past, he stiffed the vendors and he owes them money and he doesn't want to pay the money, which is why he wasn't going back to those venues. So he's got an upcoming rally in North Carolina and they made the town that he's doing it in made him pay money up front because he has a track record of stiffing the venues. So that's one of the reasons. He might owe the airport's money. He might owe the venue's money, right? And so was the cover story may have been, oh yeah, we have a mechanical issue. But it appears like there potentially was a real mechanical issue with the plane because he ended up flying on Jeffrey Epstein's jet. Okay, all right, we're not done. Let's keep going. The campaign had no awareness that the charter plane had been owned by Mr. Epstein, the spokeswoman said, adding that the charter was commissioned by a vendor that has often been used by the campaign. We heard about the former owner through the media. Epstein was arrested on sex trafficking charges in 2019, accused of sexually abusing more than 100 girls and young women over decades. Epstein was subsequently found dead in his Manhattan jail cell, blah, blah, blah. They say it's a suicide. Of course, it wasn't a fucking suicide. Trump's use of the plane is likely to add to public scrutiny surrounding his relationship with Epstein, even though no evidence has surfaced that Trump was involved in Epstein's crimes. Now, they go on to explain in this article that he did fly on Jeffrey Epstein's plane, and I believe the number is 6 different times between 1993 and 1997. Here it is. Trump was in the same social circles as Epstein and flew on Epstein's plane 6 times from 1993 to 1997. Is it possible that was all, hunky-dory and they were flying to go pick flowers somewhere together and to read a novel to each other and snuggle in bed? It's possible. Is it also possible that what almost always goes on with Jeffrey Epstein was going on with him and Trump involved? Absolutely. In fact, it was Steve Bannon who came out and said in 2016, there's one person who can derail this entire MAGA movement, and his name is Jeffrey Epstein. So what does he know? Look, even putting Jeffrey Epstein aside, Trump has dozens of accusations of sexual harassment, sexual assault against him, and a lot of the women share this very similar stories, which means he has an MO. So do I think when he flew on the plane 6 times that it was all on the up and up and everything? I wasn't born yesterday, so no, I don't believe that. But look, now let's get to the important part. And I should point out, by the way, this was not the plane that was nicknamed the Lolita Express, which is the bigger plane, which is where all the disgusting stuff went down, right? This wasn't that plane. This is a smaller plane that was also owned by Jeffrey Epstein. Okay, now having said that, here's the main point. Can you imagine the right-wing reaction if we learned that Joe Biden or Kamala Harris or Tim Walz were flying around on Jeffrey Epstein's plane last week? Can you imagine the conspiracy theories that would pop up, the arguments that would be made. You know, it would be the number one story in the country. It'd be trending on social media. Every single right-winger online would be pounding the gavel and saying, guilty. You're connected to Jeffrey Epstein. You were involved in the crimes 100%. Here you are flying his plane shamelessly. And oh yeah, I'm sure it was a coincidence that you, of all the planes, you ended up on one that was owned by Epstein. We all know for sure how they would react to this. But since it's Trump and they love Trump, they never bring up he flew on Epstein's plane 6 times. They never bring up the close relationship. They never bring up the thing that Steve Bannon said. And they will totally, utterly, completely just pretend like this story never came out. Like Trump was not literally just flying around on Jeffrey Epstein's jet last fucking week. And then, to the extent any of them bring it up, which none of them will, what will they say if it does come up? Bro, I mean, have you read the story on it? I mean, obviously, this is a nothing story. This is a nothing burger. I mean, it just happened to be the plane. It was a total coincidence. They had no idea. So, in other words, all of a sudden, every single story, mainstream media is lying. Mainstream media has an agenda. Mainstream media is hiding the conspiracy. Mainstream media is never right. Mainstream media is wrong all the time. Look at what's going. All of a sudden, they'd be like, well, the mainstream media reports were right. Obviously, it was a total coincidence that Donald Trump was in Jeffrey Epstein's plane. See, this is why I can't stand these people. This is because they're dishonest. They're dishonest people. They're disingenuous. They will hide the things they want to hide, play up the things they want to play up, and at no point do they actually give a shit about the truth. At no point. At no point. So what's the reality of the situation? Because we're not like them. What's the reality of the situation? The reality of the situation is, in my opinion, those 6 times previously he flew on Jeffrey Epstein's plane in the 1990s. That's the real, hey, this is sketchy. What the hell is going on here? Potentially things were going on. Turns out when you fly around with the CEO of Elite Sex Crimes Incorporated, you're probably involved in sex crimes. But to be clear, this totally is just a coincidence, right? This having the plane now, that is actually just a coincidence. And that's, ladies and gentlemen, what you call keeping it real. That's what you call telling the truth and not being a partisan hack. And as I said, literally none of them on the other side will do this. Hey, y'all, do me a favor and like and subscribe. It helps out big time in the algorithm. Click the bell as well for notifications when videos drop, and watch that video on screen right now. You know you want to.